thoughts? Is it really a collective culture, or is it tending to be more individualistic, like the post-90s, especially period, modern Russia? What are your thoughts on that?
Russia is much more collective minded than Europe and then the US. Russians have this sort of collective thinking about the state. They take less individual responsible for what's happening in society. So if you take a Dutch person, they would, from an individual point of view, be concerned with how their own actions influence positively or negatively society. In Russia, you would say the individual action of a person has much less bearing with what's going on in society. So very simple, a very simple example. When you ride a taxi in Moscow, and the taxi driver throws, an empty paper cup of coffee out of the window, and you would say, like, why are you doing that? Yeah, and then the answer of the Russian taxi driver would be like, what's the difference? If I don't do it, there are a million others who do it. So my little bit of waste doesn't make a big difference. The Dutch taxi driver would think that if I do this and everybody starts doing like me, then it will become a mess. Yeah, so there's really a different type of thinking. And at the same time, there's another big difference as well in taking this individual responsibility. So, for example, a Dutch or German, let's say Western European person, they would take individual responsibility for collective well-being, but they would take much less individual responsibility for individual well-being. And in Russia, strangely enough, this is the other way around. Again, let me give you a simple example. A Russian person takes care of their family, of their radnie, so the people who are really close to them. And Russians, they form this sort of social security, social safety net is organized within the family, and even with among good friends and among the radnie, the very close people. But again, the Russian individual couldn't care less what happens in society as a result of his or her actions. In the Netherlands, it's the other way around. In the Netherlands, you rarely see that, for example, adult children would take care of their elderly parents. In the Netherlands, you would very rarely see that a brother takes care of a sister, or a sister of a brother, and so on. In the Netherlands, you send your elderly parents to a home for retirees. Yeah, in the Netherlands, you would think 5 times before you help out your sister or your brother with some money problem. Yeah. Here in Russia, it's the other way around. If I luckily I haven't been ill, but I remember that in Russia, when I would have the flu, the amounts of people offering me to bring me chicken soup, to bring me medicine, to help me, to bring me mandarins or oranges and so on. In Russia, it doesn't stop. Almost there's a queue in front of your apartment, people trying to help you. In Holland, when you have a flu, you go to the pharmacy, you get some medicine, and nobody comes to help you. The individual responsibility in Russia is very strong towards other individual people, as long as they are in your microcosmos. Everything that's outside of the microcosmos, you don't really care about. And in Western Europe, you see that people are much more on their own individually, even within the microcosmos of the family or the close friends. But you have society taking care of individuals, and that's why individuals also make an effort not to have a negative effect on society.
Students, when I teach students and communicate with the people who are in their early 20s, I think that they're very, very, very different from the generation of their parents or the generation of their grandparents. They are the generation that were growing up in a very, very comfortable situation. They had a comfortable life. They didn't have to fight for anything. There was no such thing as a deficit as their parents or grandparents knew. What are your thoughts on the younger generation?
Yeah, and especially if you look at the people now who are 20, 25, this is a whole different generation, because a lot of them, they don't even know who Lenin was, who Stalin was. They know less about the Soviet Union than I. do, even though I arrived here in 94, well after the Soviet Union, but most of my friends lived a big part of their life in the Soviet Union. So I know the stories and kind of sort of project my imagination on how it must have been. But these younger people of 20, 25, they only lived during more or less good times. They lived pretty protected lives. They didn't have this very solid Soviet education, which had education was in Soviet times also very much, fact-based, expertise-based. You always needed to be able to produce the knowledge. Much less than, for example, in Europe, you have much more that you need to use the knowledge and show how you use the knowledge and how you argument or how you come to a solution. In Russia, you would need to just, be able to reproduce the knowledge. But this younger generation, they didn't have not one and not the other type of education. So I find them interesting in the sense that they're more free thinking. They accept less authority. They have less roots in life. I wonder how this generation will deal with the big problems that may still lie ahead.
In what way are they the same as their peers in the West or in other countries? In what way are they different?
Okay. What I can see, what has changed, is that a 27-year-old person in 1998 was wise and grown up and adult beyond his or her years. So 27-year-old professional in 1998 would, these people would already be directors or managers of banks or of businesses or of huge departments in companies. They would already have their own businesses. These people at a 27-year-old in 1998 or 1999 already lived like almost an entire life. When I compare myself in 1998, I was 27, and I would find myself, more infantile than the Russians that I would deal with. So I would see Russians of my age, who achieved a lot more than I did at that time. And I would think like, wow, how did these people do that in such a short time? And sometimes I would have negotiations with Russians of my age, 27, 28 years old. And I would really feel outpowered. I would feel that my counterparts who had the same age, but on the Russian side, they would be smarter, they would be quicker, they would be faster, they would take more risks, they would have more knowledge than I did. So I was really impressed at that time. When now I look at 27, 28-year-old Russians who, for example, work in my companies, it's the other way. And then I compare them with who I was when I was 27 years old. I would say that I was much more mature at 27-year-old in 1998 than today. I see the 27-year-olds in Russia. So something has changed, where Russians were really capable, professional, wise, smart, tough, beyond their age in the 90s, and also still in the early 2000s. Now I would say that they're lagging behind. And I would say that a 27-year-old in the Netherlands is already more independent, more responsible, more mature than a 27-year-old in Russia at this moment. So this is really a shift that I observed.